समझ नहीं आ रहा अपने सैलरी इंक्रीमेंट का क्या करूं।
बेटा इतना क्या सोच रहा है? अपने म्यूचुअल फंड्स के एसआईपी का टॉप अप करा ले। दिस इज द राइट टाइम।
क्या? समझ में नहीं आया।
बेटा इतना क्या सोच रहा है? अपने म्यूचुअल फंड्स का एसआईपी टॉपअप करा ले। दिस इज द राइट टाइम।
अब समझा।
Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme related documents carefully.
Donald Trump has taken the flamethrower to conventional diplomacy. India, and more specifically the Modi government, are having to deal with the consequences of his compulsive bluster. It was awkward enough to do damage control over his repeated claims of mediating to stop Operation Sindoor or mediating to stop the India-Pakistan conflict of 3 days. Now he's added the claim that some 5 jets were shot down. In fact, he says 4 or 5 jets were shot down. Typical of the chaos he's unleashed, this comes within a day of his administration giving India a substantive gain by declaring the resistance front a proxy of LET, Lashkar-e-Taiba, and also holding it responsible for the Pahalgam massacre and notifying it as a foreign terrorist organization. That takes away all of Pakistan's alibis, all of TRF alibis, all this nonsensical talk of false flag operation, etc., etc. How do you then reconcile these contradictions? He keeps his promise to strategic partners, as he did on this TRF business with India, but also embarrasses them, as he did with those claim of those planes having been shot down, although he didn't say whose planes were shot down. The world over, the same question is being asked. How do you deal with a problem like Donald Trump? Let's look at the big picture first. In the name of making America great again, Donald Trump is reviving anti-Americanism in far parts of the world where it had gone into dormancy. His playbook so far has been to publicly ridicule and humiliate allies and flirt with adversaries, theirs and his country's. For us in India, his loudly and repeatedly claiming credit for stopping the war through intervention and mediation has opened the old wounds of hyphenation. Those on the left and in the larger anti-Modi ecosystem are smirking in quiet celebration. What did you expect when you supped with the devil? And who knows, if he does visit India to attend the Quad Summit later this year, he's more likely than not to make a stopover in Pakistan too. For him, old rules of diplomacy do not apply. If India is irritated by what it calls hyphenation, it is India's problem. Why should India make the rules for Trump? In at least 4 statements, he has mentioned Narendra Modi. These are statements in the Oval Office, in his social media postings, also as in when he speaks with the press here and there. In at least 4 of these, 4 times, he has mentioned Narendra Modi and Field Marshal Asim Munir in the same sentence. The latest on 19 June, where he said the Pakistani general was a very smart man, came for lunch to the White House, and India's Prime Minister Modi, fantastic man, a great friend of mine, etc., etc., etc. Here we are slipping into neurosis because he was re-hyphenating us with Pakistan. Now, for heaven's sake, he's hyphenating Modi with Munir. What a calamity! I would counsel instead a deep breath, some restraint and a rethink, and also a smile. If Trump is hyphenating Munir with Modi, who should be the one complaining most of all? Shouldn't it be poor Shehbaz Sharif, the Prime Minister of Pakistan, who gave Munir his 5th star and the Field Marshal's baton? At least on paper, if it is worth anything in that constitution, the Field Marshal still reports to the Prime Minister. Even during the Op Sindoor facilitation, this is the word, facilitation, that I prefer to the more triggering mediation or intervention in India. Sharif only heard from Secretary of State Marco Rubio. His counterpart to that extent was S. Jaishankar, because Rubio called Jaishankar, the External Affairs Minister of India. When the Americans wanted to reach out to Prime Minister Modi, they brought in J.D. Vance, the Vice President. Also, I suspect because he had recently seen Modi. In fact, Modi had hosted him and his family as it happened on the eve of the Pahalgam massacre. Therefore, Shehbaz Sharif, the Prime Minister, should have been the guy crying about this hyphenation. No American leader has called out the Pakistani reality and hypocrisy as rudely and truthfully as Donald Trump. Think this over calmly. For decades, India has maintained that Pakistani democracy is a farce and the real power resides in its army. In his apparent love fest with Pakistan, Trump is only endorsing that position because he's only talking about Munir. In a way, he's doing your job, endorsing your deeply held belief. Trump's predecessors were not foolish. They knew this reality, and yet, while behind the scenes they dealt with the Pakistani army, they made deals with the Pakistani generals. On the surface, they kept batting to, or at least pretend to, restore and strengthen democracy in Pakistan across these decades. For Trump, those old fashioned pretenses are, to use his favorite word now on X and Truth Social, especially when upbraiding his own loyal base, bullshit. He talks straight, therefore, no bullshit. He will deal with whoever calls the shots in any country. It is not for him to judge any country's system or to sit in judgment over their democracy or the quality of their democracy. That, in the course of time, should be India's approach too. I suspect it will become India's approach too. If Trump runs his domestic politics through clumsily written, stream of consciousness, social media posts and grammar and spelling so bad, he would crash out of our UPSC prelims in no time. He sees no reason why diplomacy should get any privileged treatment. He is bored with the old diplomacy of wink wink, nod nod, subtle hints and persuasion, one thing in private and another in public. The upshot is you can't trust him to keep any confidences. See, for example, NATO Secretary General and former Dutch Prime Minister, by the way, Mark Rutte's fawning note to Trump, which he immediately screenshotted and made public on social media. The Europeans were shocked. They shouldn't have been. This is exactly what Trump wants: shock and awe. The world must feel his and America's power and acknowledge it. Rutte only went to an extreme in his sycophancy or chamchagiri by topping up his note with asking NATO leaders to see Trump as their daddy, and see how Trump responded. The White House made a meme on this. The daddy is home, and played it as Trump alighted from Air Force One in Washington. They liked it. Anytime you feel aggrieved, check out how Trump has treated all his closest allies. He invited Canada to become the US's 51st state and get full security, including from Russian and Chinese ships surrounding you. Zero tariffs and low taxes. He called Justin Trudeau governor and repeated the 51st state idea to new Prime Minister Mark Carney. Even when Carney said never, Trump responded, never say never. Can you imagine Trump sitting with Modi and saying, I think you should resolve that 1,000-year war over Kashmir. Each side keep what you have and be happy. LOC becomes the border. Suppose Trump said that in public with Modi also sitting there. Think about it. He said much worse to Canada, his treaty-bound ally. In every war that the Americans have fought, Canadian soldiers have died alongside their American comrades. If he can treat the Canadians like this, you know that he has changed if not the rules of the game, he's changed the manner in which the game is played. Trump's is an insurgency, a rebellion against conventional diplomacy. When he wants Hamas to stop fighting, he says Gaza will be gifted to America after this war and he will build a great Riviera there. He posts AI-generated memes of chilling on that beachfront. He's negotiating with Iran, but when Israeli attacks are going well, wants a piece of the action himself and carries out his own bombings. Then he decides to make peace. He orders his closest ally, Israel, to call their aircraft with their bombs back after making a friendly wave to the Iranians. Now he wants to resume talking with Iran. The Abraham Accords extended, ideally with the Saudis coming on board. Trump humiliates Zelensky in public, then pretends to dump him, then insists he pay for protection through a minerals deal. He praises Putin to scare NATO, and then in the course of time gets irritated with Putin instead. And the course of time in this case is just a few weeks. Now he's getting the Europeans to pay for new weaponry, especially Patriot missiles, with detained Russian reserves. This weaponry is to go to Ukraine. So Ukraine is getting its weapons, including new Patriot missile batteries. It's the same deal that Joe Biden was finalizing, except Trump has done it in a different style. The substance is the same, but the style is entirely different. This is what we call Trumplomacy. Public, loud, upfront, filled with impropriety, sometimes bordering on the uncivil, or in fact, more than sometimes bordering on the uncivil, high praise, sometimes laced with insults. But the larger objective is his idea of American supremacy. His base loves him for this. Their recent anger is purely over domestic issues, like his refusal to release the Epstein files. The US's friends can't dump him like jilted lovers. They need America. Just last week, the Wall Street Journal carried a brilliant story. Please see it on your screens. A brilliant story with insights on how the Europeans are winning him over, with gifts for family and friends, actually lavish gifts for family and friends, smiles at his insults, and oodles of flattery. And his adversaries, bemused, wait for the next move. Those like China with leverage like critical minerals are calmer. They know peace in Ukraine or not. Trump cannot hit them with abnormal tariffs. Forget 500%. Australia, Japan, South Korea, and India watch their own spaces. India has to think, for example, how to react if Trump plans indeed a stopover in Pakistan and exhumes that long buried two-country rule. What was the two-country rule? If you come to India, you also go to Pakistan. Can India say to Trump, come here some other time, go to Pakistan now, but don't come on the same visit? Can India do that, or should India do that? The world is getting used to this new reality. Trump's critics in the USA, his policies are making China great again, and there is weight in that argument. His policies are having unintended consequences too. Closer home, let's watch the thawing of the India-China tensions and the talk of reviving the tripartite Russia-India-China or RIC dialogue. Each country has looked for its own leverage with Trumpian America. Even war-torn Democratic Republic of Congo, DRC, has shown how to play with Trump. India will need to build on its own leverage. Two things the world understands about Trump. One, expect unpredictability, loose talk, and chaotic policy making. Two, that he isn't there forever. Latest by the end of 2026, he will be lame duck. Even if not, maybe he's extraordinary and he will not become lame duck. Maybe he will do very well in the midterms again to keep his majority there. Even if that were to happen, you can still play for time until 2028. It's only 3 years away. A third thing we all need to learn, that is his method is more destabilizing than policy. A good idea these couple of years, therefore, is to sip Kool-Aid and savor the joys of Trumplomacy.